today I felt the need to talk about idolatry and how a lot of us unknowingly have idols in our hearts. So I have my notes as always, so I don't forget to say certain things. But I wanted to start off by talking about the 10 Commandments. It's God started the 10 Commandments with the fact that you shall have no other gods but Him. It says you shall have no other gods before me. I read in Ezekiel 14 verse 1 to 3, and I will read. It says, some of the elders of Israel came to me and sat down in front of me. This is Ezekiel speaking. Then the word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, these men have set up idols in their hearts and put wicked stumbling blocks before their faces. Should I let them inquire of me at all? And this elders, for context, so they came to Ezekiel because they knew Ezekiel was a prophet. So they came to Ezekiel wanting to know what the Lord is saying in this season. Like, what is God saying? What should we do? And they came to him wanting him to inquire from the Lord. And God told Ezekiel that this people, these elders, they have set up idols in their hearts. So that made me think that, okay, idolatry isn't something that necessarily have to be an object. It could be something that we hold more than we hold on to God. So money could be an idol. A spouse could be an idol. Social media could be an idol. A lot of people cannot live unless they have gone on social media. That could be an idol. And I said fame, visibility, the desperation for recognition could be an idol. TV could be an idol. Drugs, alcohol could be an idol. Education, yes, you have a PhD. Yes, you have a master's. Yes, you're a doctor. Yes, you are a lawyer. And all of these things are commendable. But these things do not make you who you are. If these things are taken away from you, who are you as a person? So that could be an idol. Beauty, thinking you're so beautiful, and you use your beauty to depend on everything on earth. Or a man thinking he's so handsome, he has the 6 packs, which is amazing. But, that is not something that you should use to make yourself feel like without these things you can't survive. Ezekiel 20 verse 5 to 8. God said to Ezekiel, let's start from 4. He says, will you judge them? Will you judge them, son of man? Then confront them with the detestable practices of their ancestors and say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says. On this day I chose Israel. I swore with uplifted hand to the descendants of Jacob and revealed myself to them in Egypt. With uplifted hand I said to them, I am your Lord. I am the Lord your God. On that day I swore to them that I would bring them out of Egypt into a land I had searched out for them, a land flowing with milk and honey, the most beautiful of all lands. And I said to them, so God said, each of you get rid of the vile images you have set your eyes on, and do not defile yourselves with the idols of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. Again, this is God saying that I have a place that I want to take you to. So God desires to take each and every one of us to a land flowing with milk and honey, the most beautiful of lands. But he comes with conditions. He says that you have to get rid of, one of the things that we don't often hear about is the fact that God is a jealous God. God is very territorial. God is very possessive. So when he comes to you, he's gonna give you conditions. Everything you have held on to that you think are the things that make you who you are, God is gonna tell you to get rid of them. He desires to be the only one. He desires to be your only sauce. So this is where idolatry comes in. Things that you hold on to as your lifeline. God is going to tell you, get rid of those things. Well, he's not going to tell you to chase them away, but you have to put him as the number one. He has to be your only lifeline. He has to be your only God. That is what the first commandment is saying, that you shall have no other God. You can't, your job cannot be a God. Your spouse cannot be a God. Your business cannot be a God. The need for money, searching for money. And that search for money has made you abandon me as your God. Money cannot be your God. Your PhD, your doctorate, your master's, those things are great, but they cannot be your God. Every time God came and gave a condition about getting rid of your idols, the things we have set our hearts on, the things we have set our eyes on, the people of Israel always rebel. They always fight him. And a lot of us, we do not know that the more we fight God, the more we prolong our pain, the more you prolong your suffering, the more you prolong your mistakes and your regrets, the more you remain in the wilderness. The Bible tells us that when God came to Egypt to get the people of Israel out, the Exodus, they stayed in the wilderness for about 40 years. They were not supposed to be there for that long. But if you read that story, they kept rebelling against God. They kept provoking God to anger. And the more they kept doing all those things, the more their time in the wilderness was prolonged. And a lot of us, there's so many things God already has on the other side. He's waiting for you to just come to him in obedience. Get rid of the things that you have held onto, the things that make you think you are who you are. And God is saying, I want to be the one that you rely on. Don't rely on your finances. Don't rely on your business. Don't rely on your jobs. Don't rely on social media. Don't rely on the recognition of men, the praises of men. Don't rely on your PhD. Don't rely on your masters. Don't rely on your spouse. The things that we rely on rather than God. And I wrote here in my notes, I said that an idol is anything you worship, anything you think you can't do without. An idol is anything that takes your attention or focus away from God. Something that challenges God's position in your life. I said that an idol is something you cater to, something you worship. An idol is something you have made to become the source of your happiness. Something that if your whole world is falling apart and this thing is presented to you, all of a sudden you feel whole again. That is an idol. An idol is something that you hold in high esteem more than God. Is it your spouse? Is it your business? Is it your finances? Is it social media? Is it your beauty? Is it your handsomeness as a man? Is it drugs or alcohol? Is it TV? Is it your education, your masters, your certification, your degrees and all those great things? What is your idol? Is it your job? You know, living, working. And I have something here that I wrote that I want to share. And I wrote this a couple of months ago. And I'm gonna read it from my notes. Let's see, what dates did I write it? Because I always... Okay, so this was December 11, 2023. I wrote this. I said that God is a very territorial God in terms of what we offer him and how much of ourselves we give to him. God is jealous in nature. So therefore, as a woman who is jealous, the husband must be very sure to go out of his way to show loyalty and faithfulness. Loyalty and faithfulness shows in your behavior, in your character, and it also shows in how accessible you are and the freedom in which you give your partner access to you or to your belongings. So when God has to share and fight to get our attention, he backs out. When God has to share you with other idols, with other things that you have held higher than him, he will back out. When God has to share you with a man or a woman or with your children, he will back out. If God cannot be your only source, the God who sits on the throne of your heart, as king, as number one, not number two, he will back out. Because God, I wrote here, I said God knows his worth. He knows what he has to offer us and what he brings to the table. Like we always say, what do you bring to the table? Well, God knows what he brings to the table. So he is not obligated to shrink himself or belittle himself to please your selfishness. He desires all or nothing, your submission, your surrender, and your heart. To get God's attention and to keep it, we have to put him first. I will always talk about the fact that we have to give God something. Give him time. Our excuses about life. Yes, life is hard. Life is busy. There's so many things to do. But, just like having a child, they always say there's never a perfect time. You can never be ready to have a child. You just have to have a child, because the day you keep waiting to be perfectly ready to have a baby, that day will never come, because life is busy. So just like having a child, you can never be prepared for a child. You just have to decide to have one. And then when that child comes, you have to be the one to arrange your entire life to make that child fit in. So if we're waiting to spend time with God, you will never spend time with him. You have to be the one to arrange your life, arrange your schedule. Look through your weekly schedule, look through your calendar, look through your daily schedule, and say, you know what, I'm always free between this time and this time. And that means you might have to take some things out. You might have to take TV time out. You might have to take, I don't know. You have to find a way to include God in your life, because he's a jealous God. And when you go to him, he said it. He said, why should you inquire of me? Why should I even speak to you? First, get rid of the idols. Make me a priority. Then you can come to me and I will answer you. When you don't give him time, but then you come to him wanting him to answer your prayers. Like, God has standards, guys. So I hope this helps. And I hope that we can find time for God. That is always my heart desire for everyone. If that's all you learned from me, then I think I have done a good job. Offer him something. Have a great day. Bye-bye.